Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Unscripted. It's your boy, Mr. CD, coming at you again live this time. Haven't done a live show yet, so I thought maybe I would actually do this one live. Show's a little bit different today. I'm going to actually tell why I wanted to start this podcast. So the topic for this one today is the beginning. Back in 2006, I was first basically getting back home. I've been at Job Corps since about the end of 2003. And I felt like what I had taken a trade in, which was culinary arts at the time, I really didn't want to do that anymore. I was burnt out from cooking all the time and being in somebody's kitchen and working a dead-end job. So I signed up to go back to school. Ended up going to AAMU, which most of you in Huntsville know as Alabama A&M. I went and I signed up for telecommunications, which we all know telecommunications can open up many doors. That could be radio, television, a number of things. But I wanted to be a radio personality. Why? Because at the time, I saw how all these radio personalities could go to these different celebrity parties, getting to meet the different celebrities, getting to interview these different people, and pretty much having an all-out good time. I even went the route of even working for, back then, which was the Black Arts Festival, and something that Huntsville was really known for back then. I went through the channels of meeting certain people to where I could actually go out and venture out and do something like that. Well, with me doing the telecommunications thing, I thought maybe, hey, let me go to one of the local radio stations and see if they would actually let me do an internship for them. Well, it didn't work out the way that I thought it would. I was told that, because I didn't have the credits and I didn't have the degree, I couldn't do it. Which, I mean, if you really sit back and think about it, at the time, that's pretty much how you got into that business at that time. Well, at least that's what I thought anyway. So that kind of crushed me. Like, being an on-air radio personality was one of the biggest things that I actually wanted to do. And I guess I wanted to do it for the wrong reasons, but I also wanted to do it because it's a pastime. It takes you can be you can be somebody else. You can be whoever you want to be on that radio. If you come up with the whole radio personality or persona, that's who you were when you were on that radio. While you were on that air, that's who you were. And that's who people knew you by. They didn't know the person outside of that radio. They knew who you were by you just saying your name. I think I've reached out to more than one of the radio stations. I reached out to We Up. I reached out to 94.1. At the time, I reached out to Power 93.3. I think I went through all the channels of trying to figure out how can I become this great radio personality. And I had a lot of people that they actually gave me some insight on how I could do it, but it seemed like every corner I took and every turn that I did take, it didn't work that way. But when those doors were closed, I kind of gave up on that dream. But most people that know me outside of this podcast know that I'm one of the funniest people that you're going to actually meet. I'm always have a smile on my face. I'm always cracking jokes. I'm always doing something. I'm always saying something positive or anything pretty much at this point. So when a friend of mine told me about podcasting, I never really, I kind of didn't think twice about jumping on and doing it. Like I've listened to a couple of podcasts, and I never really thought about doing it. And to be honest with you, I really didn't know the first step about even podcasting. I didn't know they had apps where you could just go on and just start talking. And I really thought the only way that you could actually get into anything like that was really YouTube. So when my friend came to me and was like, hey, you should start a show, I pretty much asked her, like, how do I go about doing it? She gave me the apps that I needed to get to actually learn how to do this. And I listened to the podcast on how to podcast. So it was one of those, I think it's one of those things where you kind of have to have you take a leap of faith. Learning how to podcast is a very enjoyable pastime for me. It's one of those things where, like I said once before, just like being a radio personality, I can be somebody else by being on this podcast, but I can also be myself and tell my real life experiences. I can give that advice or basically give the knowledge that I have just from the experiences that I've had in life. Do I see this actually taking off and being a long-term thing? Yes, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that I can actually make this a long-term thing where I can actually quit my day job and actually do this full-time. Maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. But, I mean, no one really knows what the future holds. And like I said, this takes me, podcasting and doing this show, it takes me away from the everyday struggles of life that I have. Going through the things that I've gone through, going through not thinking, and doing this podcast takes my mind off when I went through my divorce. It takes my mind off the stress of work every day. It takes my mind off if my kids are acting some damn fools for that day, because I can actually go in and I can actually go in and, like I said, I can actually be someone else. I can go in and give that advice the way that it was given to me. I can go in and talk about any topic I want to and give my insight on it, and have anybody on the show that I want to and them give me that insight. So I'm guessing, why wouldn't I jump on something like that? It seems like podcasting is starting to be the thing. It's starting to be the norm. It's starting to be. You have millions and millions and millions of people that listen to so many different podcasts on a daily basis, and these people are giving out advice left and right, from anywhere from cooking shows to one of my favorite podcasts, The Life of Dad Show. And I think I draw a lot of inspiration from that show, because the show is actually hosted by a dad, and I think I relate more to what his show is telling me, because he has different dads on the show, and they tell their experiences about being a dad and the do's and the don'ts and the trials and the errors that they've had. And I can relate to a lot of that. And I guess I would say doing this podcast, it actually gives me something to look forward to. Like, I think the second show that I did, and I think the second show I did was on friendship. And my daughter, my 7-year-old daughter, was kind of eavesdropping on after I finished recording it. And she was like, "Dad, is that you?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "What are you doing?" So I had to explain, I explained to her what it was. She's like, "That's really cool." She like, and it warmed me up inside because I could actually do something to make my daughter proud. And that's pretty much all I'm really trying to do with this podcast. Is I'm trying to reach people to give them some insight, or give them, basically let them know that they're not alone in the daily struggle that they go through. Everybody goes through something, and you're not alone in the daily struggle, because you have people out there that are probably going through the same exact thing you are. They're just too afraid to speak up and say it. And that is one thing I think I instill in my kids, is that whatever you decide that you want to do, whatever you start, I would rather you finish it than quit. But if you're going to do it the right way, and put as much pride into it as you can. And I think that's something that stuck with me. That's something that stuck with me, because growing up, that's what I saw my dad do. Like, my dad was a very prideful man, and everything that he did, he put his all into, even if it was just cleaning, when he was cleaning the church or whatever, he put a lot of pride into the work that he did. And that's why he was really successful when it came down to writing his poems and doing his children's books. And I'm thinking that's what he wanted, that's what he wanted for us. And those things were, instilled in me. So, I mean, that's why I do this podcast. That's why I wanted to start something that maybe one day my kids might actually want to do. And hey, maybe who's to say my kids might be on the show one day, because there are a plethora of topics that you can sit here and you talk about with the kids today. Like, there are many different things that these kids go through now that we didn't go through as kids. I know I didn't go through a lot of things that they go through now, but especially with the age of technology and the era that we're living in, as far as a social media era. We didn't have social media back then. We didn't have cell phone. Everybody had a cell phone. And so there are, like I said, there are a plethora of topics that we can discuss as far as, me and my kids. But where do I actually want to see this podcast go? I would probably say I want to see it actually make some record numbers. I thank the people that support me whenever I do these podcasts. I want to thank the people that actually have volunteered to help me do my graphics and my logos. Shantae Dorsey, thank you very much for making that logo that you created for me. I greatly appreciate it. And Daniel, man, you are awesome. I promise you are, man. He created the logo that you guys see now, for the cover art for today's episode. And the guy's amazing. The guy's great. I have my little cousin, Asante. He's actually getting ready to start working on some intro music for me. So, there are a lot of people that are on board to help me. I actually got a person that actually wants to co-host a show with me permanently. I'm not going to say her name right now, but I know that she's going to be a wonderful co-host. I know for a fact, because when it comes down to topics such as, I can't even throw out a topic right now, but any topic I know she's going to come with it, because she's going to give you what you don't want to hear. And a lot, I can tell you now, a lot of my listeners there are probably going to be a little